Okay, ready for the next instalment. As you can see, the rear caliper has now been mounted onto the bike, and that has been painted and prepped. It's now bolted on. The next jobs we are going to have to do on this, we're going to have to run through a brake line. You can see we've got the master cylinder reservoir in place and the hoses, but we don't actually have a master cylinder, so we're going to be building the master cylinder, fitting that, running the brake lines through, and eventually feeding the lines through, filling the brake system with brake fluid, leading out the rear brake. Okay, so we've got to stage now. We're going to be building the rear brake master cylinder. This is the actual master cylinder casting itself. This is the piston, and this is the spring which provides the return for this. We're going to be using the standard all balls rebuild kit. It's easily available through anyone like Wemoto or Yambits. Comes with a couple of O-ring of copper washers. Comes with a new rubber bellows. You get a replacement circlip that holds the actual whole assembly in place. Get the O-ring that feeds the fluid reservoir in. Get a replacement seal, replacement spring, and another replacement seal. There is, for some reason in this kit, a secondary circlip being supplied, which I believe is just an error because it's not used on this item. So the first thing we've got to do is take our master cylinder piston, ignore my dirty nails, and we're going to take the old seal off. So we're going to be using a small 90-degree pick is the best way of doing this. Just gently pull under the surface. You don't need to worry too much about damaging this because this is not going to be reused. Note the orientation, they flay outwards. This is the end that the rod acts on, so this works upwards. The reason they flay outward is pressure from the brakes will actually push them outwards and give a better seal rather than the other way around, which would encourage the fluid to go past. So we're going to insert our pick tool in here. Just find a little opening, there we go, that's fine. And just stretch that out. It can be a little bit fiddly, but don't worry about that. And all we're going to do is just run this off the edge. So just a matter of getting under. There we go, we're under now. Now we can just pull this, stretch it off. And there we go, that's our piston without the seal. So now we're just going to take a clean piece of cloth, just give it a wipe through because you don't want any dirt or gravel or bits of corrosion or anything like that ending up inside that master cylinder bore, because a couple of the passageways in there are very small and could lead to problems. So we're now going to take smaller the seal. This is the lower seal, and if you're ever in doubt on this sort of thing, always check the manual. There'll be a breakdown in there of which seals go where and so forth. So this one is going to sit at the bottom here. It's going to be a little bit of a job to get round, but they are very, very, very stretchy seals. So sometimes if it's very cold, you might just need some warmth to help it through, but as you can see there, it's easily popped on. There we go, it's our lower seal in place. Note again the orientation that way, which shows you that's okay. So we've got the master cylinder apart. This is the old spring. This is the old seal that we've just taken off and changed on the bottom of this master cylinder piston. And this is the old seal that came off the top. You can see there's some gel and dirt and corrosion in there. Now, we've had a good little run around. There is a little bit of pitting and marking on this surface, but that's not important. The surface that is very important in brake master cylinder is this internal bore here. And this one's in nice shape, so that's just been cleaned up lightly with a wire toothbrush to make sure there's no loose debris. So bear in mind we have a brand new seal. The kit came with a new spring, so we're going to use that as well because you might as well use all the new parts you can. And it's just quite simply a case that the spring fits onto the seal like so. This goes in. Now this one's quite simple because this is working at the very end, so that's in the direction that it likes to move in, so that just pushes in. We then have the main piston. Now as this goes in, one thing you may find is you reach a point there and it won't want to progress any further. And the reason for that, of course, is that the seal splays outwards. So what you have to do is get it up, and that stops there. Using the side, not the point of the pick, you can just gently introduce it into its bore. And you don't want to push too hard initially because you don't want to pinch the seal. Obviously brakes are very important to get right. We're going in and it's gone in. So the next stage we've got to do is keep this depressed. We then place the circlip, which is this component here, into that groove, and then our master cylinder is built. So you can now add the master cylinder, push rod, pop the circlip in, and this is all going to go together without problem. Take our circlip pliers. We need to compress the circular pins, so we have them on the internal setting, and there we go, everything just clips in perfectly together. So all we need to do now is make sure this circlip is fully home. We're doing that by just pushing down on it until it reaches its groove, and that will just click into position. There we go, you hear that click. Just make sure everything's located. There we go, all the way around. And everything's where it needs to be. This now will move freely and easily in its bore and will provide us the braking we need. We can now fit the rubber bellows on, fit the whole assembly onto the bike. Okay, so we've got our master cylinder now approximately in place. It's not pinned through the brake pedal yet, we'll do that next. But first things first, we've got to wind these bolts home, torque them to 20 Newton meters, which is the specified torque for these components. So I'm just running them just in finger tight. And we're just going to put the torque wrench on. There's our 20 Newton meters. It's not actually particularly tight, there's not a huge amount of load on these. And there we go, just again double check. We've reached our torque. And again. And that's those now torqued into position. So what you have to do now is fully locate the fluid reservoir. The rear hose can then go on, and then we're in a position we can start filling with fluid and bleeding. Okay, so we're just placing our brake line in position now. You'll see it just sitting at the back there. Always use new copper washers in there. This line is a very specifically shaped one that's going to run along here and pick up on the brake caliper there. So that's just something we're going to do off camera. But it's just, that's a hell of a performance line, a very good quality braided line. That will then be the plumbing complete, and we can start bleeding the brakes. Okay, we're at the point now, the brake line is fitted, the caliper is ready to go. All we have to do now to get an operational rear brake is the bleeding procedure. This particular caliper is a little bit unusual in that it has two bleed nipples on it. Not all do, some don't. This one has two. So what we're going to do is actually start with the rear one, because it's furthest away from the reservoir. There's several ways of doing it. You can use easy bleed kits, you can use one-way valves. I'm going to be doing it the old-fashioned way, which is very, very simple, and it's a good basic start. If you can do it this way, you can do it any way. So simply in case we've got an 8mm spanner on the bleed nipple, we've got a piece of clear plastic tubing, and all we're going to do is open the bleed nipple, push the pedal all the way down, close the bleed nipple, bring it back up. We repeat this process, and we will purge over time all the air out of the system. You have to keep an eye on the reservoir level, because that does drop. You just start to see the first drops of fluid through now. Just hold it down, let the air escape. It's also worthwhile just to make sure you keep that hose on. As we're going through, everything's doing what it's supposed to do. Everyone has their own ways of doing this. My personal recommendation, when you think you've seen the last set of bubbles, because the reservoir on bike's quite small, just run one more reservoir's worth of fluid through it, then you know you've got it all. Okay, so the rear brake is now bled. We did have a small mistake made on the rear master cylinder. When you remember we put the master cylinder together, there was a little seal that sat atop the spring. It's located on the spring with a little pin. That was put in upside down. It's easy to do, everyone makes mistakes, so it was just a case of taking that apart, flipping that over, and then of course we bled through without problem. The symptom of that was when I was trying to bleed the brakes, the fluid level kept pushing up in the reservoir. And that's because the reservoir feed was lower than the seal, so it was pushing back through from the lower seal. So just a case of taking the reservoir apart again, taking the master cylinder apart, flip that spring over, put the seal in the correct orientation, everything worked absolutely fine. Took about half a dozen to a dozen pumps on the pedal to bleed the fluid through, and it came through with much more force and much quicker. So now the situation we have is we have a brake that rotates nice and freely, but stops immediately as soon as you hit the brake pedal.
That's exactly what you want. There's a very solid feel at the pedal, everything's good. So next instalment is going to be putting the wiring loom in, and this will be a good illustration of the importance of how to fit the wiring loom around the correct parts. If you get something around the wrong tube or in the wrong place, it might not appear as a mistake initially, but once you put the bike together, you might find that something else then traps that, and if you've got the wiring loom, which is an early component, you're going to have a whole lot of work to strip it apart and put it. So really the moral there is the importance of making sure you take lots and lots and lots of photographs when you strip a bike down. You can't take too many, and on the mobile phone they're always to hand and easy to reference back to. So next instalment is going to be wiring loom. We're going to be putting the brake light switch in. We've got the lower return switch, and we will be looking to put the fork legs back in very soon as well, which will give us a rolling chassis. Following that, be the engine in, and we're very close to a running bike. So please subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, and we'll be back in a couple of weeks for the next video putting in the wiring loom.